Hey everyone, and welcome to the new Crazy About the SWA podcast, and I am your host, Crazy Ralph, and we are going to go on a wild adventure. We are going to have a lot of fun with this, just like we've been having a lot of fun in the SWA proper. First off, it's got to be said, a big old thank you to Mo and Doc and anyone else behind the scenes that's making the ship run right, the SWA. They've been putting on a great show for the last 2 seasons. Season 3 is here. Holy crap, I know, right? Little over 9. I might be wrong on this, but I feel like it's been like a year. It's definitely been at least 8 or 9 months, right? Someone can yell at me in the comments or something. I don't know. But yeah, Season 3, holy crap, here we are. And with Season 3 comes this new podcast that I've been kind of brainstorming the last season or two. Been wanting to focus a little bit more up on doing a little bit more media content, a little bit more brand advertising or what have you, just something to get the word out that we're having a lot of fun down here in the SWA section of the forums. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, welcome. This is a podcast dedicated to simulation wrestling. We're having a blast, hosted on 2K. We're having all sorts of fun. And if you are interested in getting signed up and started in the SWA, please feel free to check out the SWA network section of the SBA Today forums and get on started. We got creation stuff in there, all sorts of stuff that you need to get started. I know there's a dedicated couple channels on the Discord, on the SBA Discord for it. So yeah, please swing by and let them know Crazy Ralph sent them your way. I'm sure they'd be glad to have you. So yeah, let's talk podcast. SWA, Crazy About the SWA. I got some ideas. I got some stuff that I kind of want to focus on, but I'm gonna kind of keep it loose. I'm not fully concrete on what I want the podcast to be exactly just yet. But for now, I really want it to be. It's going to be a weekly podcast. I'm gonna have a show every week. It's not going to be maybe on the same day every week. I'm usually free Mondays and Tuesdays, so that might be when it is mostly. But sometimes over the weekends, sometimes whenever. But I always want to have at least one podcast a week. We can definitely play with that. Experiment around, see what's going on. Maybe bi-weekly or what have you, every pay-per-view. But I really want it to be weekly because there's so much that happens in the SWA every week that maybe not everyone pays attention to. I know on the streams we get 5, 6 people, 7 people, which is, that's a healthy amount. That's people are invested. People are spending their time watching an hour and a half fake wrestling show, and that's pretty cool. But that number could be 14, that number could be 25, that number could be what have you. That number could be everyone in the organization watching. So I really kind of want to start getting some hype, start generating some more media flow for the SWA, and that's going to start with me. I want to do some breakdowns. I know Mo and Doc do their breakdown at the end of each show. It's kind of a quick little what happened at the very end. If you missed, you tuned in halfway and you missed the first matches, you can get the whole gist at the end from Mo. But I want to dig deeper. I want to see where the storylines are coming from. I want to go into the network pieces that people are writing. If you want your network piece featured on here, I can do a deep dive, or you can give me the spicy tidbits that you only want focused here, or whatever. Just I want to focus on some breakdowns, see what's going on. So yeah, the next thing I wanted to focus on for the show was guests. I'd love to have guests on, come in, talk about SWA. You can come on, talk about your wrestler, talk about why you like the SWA, talk about whatever, talk about the ham sandwich you had for lunch or what have you, whatever you had, a salad, some soup. Come on in and talk about it, we have a lot of fun. Or come on and cut a promo. I don't think there's been a voice promo yet for the SWA. If not, there's definitely been promos. People have been cutting promos in the network section for a while, but there's definitely, I think, a lack of voice promos. So if you want to hop on the podcast and let your next opponent knows who's who, feel free. I'd love to have you on. Just let me know and send me a Discord message. I think I'm on the channels. I think you can find me, but ping me, you know. The last thing I kind of wanted to focus on, it's kind of tied into the breakdowns and whatever, but there's a lot of storylines in the SWA that I think get glossed over, or that get buried under the kind of weekly grind that is the SWA. Because, you know, when someone writes something 4 weeks ago as this is where the character direction I'm taking right now, and all of a sudden their character direction gets derailed by a couple uncharacteristic losses, or they've got some wins, they got some momentum, and things change. So I want to really deep dive in on some of the legacy storylines that we have going in the SWA. Like, full disclosure, Daniel Drake Thomas is my wrestler, obviously, and my tag partner Tomio Yamaguchi is historically one of the most winningest wrestlers in the organization. So he's got a very storied past on the streak, right? He was undefeated for a very long time in singles action. I know he has lost, certainly, but in singles, he is dominated from the very start, from the opening tournament. So it's very, very, some of those deep storylines, I kind of want to dive into them and see where they take me. And then lastly, it's more, it's not concrete. I don't want this to be a rigid thing. It's going to be a little bit more flowy or experimental. I'm gonna kind of see what vibes, what doesn't vibe. See what people like, see what people don't like, see what people suggest I talk about, see what people want to hear more of me talk about. This is a back and forth. So if you got stuff you want me to talk about, message me. I'll talk about it. We'll see what's going on. Or if you think that I'm just you just think I suck wind and I suck at making podcasts, let me know too. Any feedback's feedback, like. So yeah, that's kind of the general idea for this show. I just keep it real, talk about the SWA a lot, follow in on some of the storylines, and maybe have some guests on. And yeah, let's go from there. But for today, I needed a topic today to talk about, because I figured having Mo or someone on for the first guest, or like for the first episode, would be cool. But organizing that, and then, it gets lost, and then it's 3 weeks later, and then you haven't done your podcast. So I wanted to just get one out there, get the word out that this is happening, that I am going to actually do a weekly podcast here for the SWA. And I just wanted to talk about build help, and kind of like maybe some of the myths that have originated around... or some of the misconceptions around some of the stats attributes for your wrestler, or like some of maybe you didn't know your personality sliders actually have an effect on your wrestler, or like what the AI does in a match, or like it actually has profound effects sometimes on what your wrestler does. Or like you might not know that there's in-ring bonuses. The SWA is running the universe mode, and when the universe mode matches occur, like there's bonuses that are applied onto those matches depending on how the match plays out. So there's a lot of stuff that maybe a lot of people don't know about, or maybe you do know about it, and I'm just talking to a wall over here about, I know all about 2K. Well, let me tell you about 2K. But no, maybe for someone who's struggling, or for those people who are new, once again, welcome. Thanks for listening. But if you are new, please feel free to listen to my advice. Additionally, the character creation template on the forums is excellent. Frankly, it really deep dives down into the nitty-gritty of what you need to create a wrestler, what a gimmick is, what you really should kind of be focusing on. I'm pretty sure that the SWA has omitted a few things from competition. There are a few things that we don't use. I know at least one of the paybacks we don't use, and a few maybe of the OMG moments and a few other things like that. And if I'm not mistaken, some of the actual stats attributes, the chain wrestling stat isn't used. You can't like upgrade the chain wrestling stat. I think it's just at 50 for everyone. But yeah, no, let's dive in. Let's talk about it. First thing I kind of wanted to talk about was overall and how your character's overall is generated, because in the rulebook, in the SWA rulebook, it kind of distinctly states that your overall affects the level of your skills. And if skills and attributes are going to be different, your skills are, they're set kind of things for your character to do, and then they can do that at a higher level the higher your overall is at. I forget the exact limits, but I think 80 overall is what you need to hit the level 3, or maybe it's 85. I think it's 85. 85 overall to hit the level 3 attributes on any of the skills that you may have unlocked. So it is, overall is fairly important. And once again, I can go back to Tomio Yamaguchi and say, look, Tomio Yamaguchi was barely over 80 overall for most of his massive winning streak and dominance. And there were some wrestlers in the 84, 85, 86 range during that time losing to him. So there's some stuff to talk about there too. But overall isn't everything, but it certainly helps to have a higher overall, because you will benefit from those things. So your overall, first off, your overall is generated off of an average of the stats of your wrestler. I'm not specifically sure how 2K averages them out, or if it weights certain stats over others, or, I'm not totally sure how it works, but I do know that it is an average of your stats somehow. And frankly, overall is important. You will benefit more from more overall. So having a good overall is frankly important. So building your character to generate overall is at least wise at worst. Sometimes if it goes against your gimmick, or if you have something in mind, then maybe building overall isn't all it's cracked up to be. But if you want to do well in the SWA, there are a few things that will bump your overall, at least in my experience, that will bump your overall a little bit more so than, say, other stats. And the first one is, or maybe this one doesn't bump it, unfortunately, but this one is very important. The momentum stat is probably one of the most important stats in the game to update and to get maxed out as soon as possible. Your wrestler's momentum is indicative of how likely they are to charge moves or build moves or do moves or what have you, to go on a roll effectively. If we've seen a couple matches, certainly maybe not a squash match, but some matches where a character will run out of steam and one character just cruises to the end, and then that's it. They crush them for like the last 45 seconds and they win the match. That's the momentum at work. That's the momentum doing its magic. So momentum, super important stat to update. Next up on super important stats is your arm and leg power. These actually, I believe, do provide a little bit of an extra boost to your overall, just in general. From experience, they seem to add a little bit more overall than some of the other stats around them. But the arm and leg power stats are important because they add extra damage to any attack done with an arm or a leg. And that doesn't include grapples. Grapples have their own stats, but any punch or any kick, and that's half the match. You're not like only grappling. People are doing kicks, people are doing drop kicks, people are doing throwing punches, Half of your match is punches and kicks. So leveling those up to provide an extra bonus on damage to those attacks is always a good idea, frankly. And everyone should probably update arm and leg power. Maybe not immediately, but certainly at some point. And then kind of finally, maybe the most important stat for overall that I've found personally is the durability stats. There's 4 of them. The arm, head, body, and leg durability stats are so important for your wrestler to succeed and to, generally do well. And it'll provide a large amount of overall for you because it will be harder for your character to go down. It'll be harder for your character to take damage. Effectively, the durability stats reduce the amount of damage being done to the specific part of the body that is taking the damage. The higher the stat is, the more that it reduces the damage, effectively negating any damage done by arm and leg power. So if someone doesn't have arm and leg power updated and they're punching you and you have durability stats on, they're doing less than base damage on those punches and kicks. So it's really important to get those durability stats up. And I know, I'm pretty sure a fair amount of people have done this, like have done the durability, but I noticed at the start of the league or of the association, a lot of people went really heavily into reversals instead because reversals sound cool. And it's just like, oh, well, I'll just turn attack around and I'll be able to attack them. And it's like, yeah, it's cool, but there's limited amount of reversals. You level up your reversal stat, you will gain more reversals, and then yada, yada, yada. You will have more reversals to reverse. But once those run out, or once your reversals are low enough, Mo might have it set that in 2K there are two modes where you can limit the amount of reversals, or there's an unlimited amount of reversals, and I forget how exactly each work, and I'm not sure which the SWA uses, but going off assumptions that reversals are finite, having damage reduction on attacks is super good and is a no-brainer at any point and will boost your overall significantly as well. So if you really need some more overall, body durability and all the durability stats are your friends. And I guess final tip and trick I have is just focus on a couple things instead of making an all-arounder. This is a similar mentality to that in the SBA, where a character or a player in the SBA with all 80s is not going to be they'll be good, but they won't be as good as someone with a more specialized build with several 99s or 95s and whatever that can perform at a higher level than, say, other stats that they're not going to be using. So if you have an all 70 build guy in 2K 2019, a guy with half the TPE with a few 90s and 100s boosted up is going to have way more overall, unfortunately. So build into what you want to build into. Like if you're an aerial guy, build all the aerial stuff. Or if you're all about punching and kicking, build all the punching and kicking stuff, but like focus on a certain thing. Focus on a gimmick that you're working on. And then you will have, I think, or I believe at least, more success in those endeavors than, say, someone who puts a few points everywhere. And that's really all I have for my overall tips. I'm sure there are more. I'm sure there are. I'm gonna think of some later because my mind is made of Swiss cheese, and I always forget stuff when I'm doing stuff like this. But those are all my tips for overall generation. Next, I kind of want to just go through what the stats do, because I don't think anywhere on the SWA forums there's like a really distinct, clear, this is what X stat does, or this is what this stat goes towards. And the 2K game itself tells you what each stat does and when you're in the creation mode. So I think I want to run through those real quick and just kind of talk about each one that the SWA has. because there are a few that we don't use, but everyone that we do have, I will talk about here real quick, and just kind of go over what the game says that they do, and maybe that will help you with your build, or maybe that will help clear up some confusion on certain stats like agility, where a lot of people think agility is something else that it really isn't. So I'm gonna go through this list. This might take a little while. If you want to skip ahead, go ahead. But I'm just gonna talk about all the attributes. So first up, arm power. We just touched on this. Arm power affects the amount of damage dealt by attacks using the arms. That's from the game. Higher arm power, you're gonna have more extra damage per arm hit. It doesn't mean, and this goes for, I believe, all of the offensive stats or all of the offensive attributes, but it does not mean you will do more of a certain attribute or a certain attack. It just means it will have more damage. Same thing with leg power. Once again, amount of damage dealt by attacks using the legs is greater. Your grapple offense stat line or attribute line affects the amount of damage dealt by grapple attacks. Running offense, damage dealt by running attacks, so on. Aerial offense affects the amount of damage dealt by diving attacks. So anything off the top rope, or I know summer wrestlers, the Ace, Songres, Diego Mercer, a lot of dudes who go to the top rope are benefiting highly from this attribute. Aerial range. This is kind of the first one that's going to be a little bit different. The aerial range affects the range of a superstar's diving and springboard attacks. So, like I said, contrary to, so it also affects the springboard offense. It doesn't just mean you're diving off the top rope. So the guys who are doing aerial offense should also probably put some points into springboard offense. Because if you've got points in aerial range, you're wasting points towards your springboard offense range and attacks. The next two on the list are something I'm very familiar with, the power submission offense and the technical submission offense. They operate very similarly to the grapple offense, running offense, yada, yada, yada. It affects the amount of damage dealt by those types of submissions. So a power submission move, if you have power offense or power submission offense, it will deal more damage when you do a power style submission move. Same thing for technical style submission. Environmental offense, once again, is a little bit different. It may be a little bit different from what people are assuming it does. The environmental offense affects the amount of damage dealt by attacks that use the barricade, ring post, or the grapple attacks at ringside. So anything outside of the ring, if you get run into the pole, if you get your head bashed off the metal steps, if you're going into the announcer's table, your environmental offense stat is adding additional damage to those things, to those attacks. Once again, not doing more of those attacks, but adding additional damage. Foreign object offense. This one is a little bit more clear. Affects the amount of damage dealt by foreign objects such as chairs, tables, ladders, etc., sledgehammers, weapons. I don't think we've had many weapon matches. I know a few chairs have been thrown into the rings, and we've definitely had tables, ladders, and chairs matches before, or maybe just no, we've had TLC matches before. What am I thinking? But your foreign object offense will do additional damage when you hit opponents with those items. Reversal offense affects the amount of damage dealt by reversal attacks. Same thing again. Once again, all of the offensive stats are not the amount of things that you do in that sense, but more the damage bonus for each of the offensive abilities that you are performing in the match. Now it's reversal. This is not reversal offense, but the reversal attribute determines the maximum number of reversals at the start of the match. So the higher this one is, the more reversals you have to deal with. And then strike reversal. This one, once again, a little bit different to reversal and reversal offense. It affects the superstar's ability to reverse strikes. Doesn't say there's a limit. If someone throws a punch, you should be able to reverse it indefinitely, but it will affect the ability to do so at a higher rate. Same thing with grapple reversal. Affects a superstar's ability to reverse grapple attacks. Actually thinking about this now, I think I'm wrong. I think it's the reversal stat or attribute dictates the number of reversals that you have, and then the strike reversal and grapple reversal affects how likely it is you are to reverse one of those moves and then use a reversal stock or something like that. I don't know. Same thing, aerial reversals affects a superstar's ability to reverse diving and springboard attacks. So anything with a springboard offense is also included in the aerial reversal. And then next up are the durability stats that I was just talking about earlier. The head durability, the body durability, the arm durability, and the leg durability all reduce the damage inflicted to those individual body parts. Super useful, super good. You should all be putting points into this. Seriously. Next up, damage recovery. Affects the rate at which hit points recover. There is a little bit of health regen in this game. You can regen health, and you're doing it when your character, you see a guy kind of roll to the outside and just chill and sit there. He's regenning his health, or he's doing whatever. As long as he's not getting hit, he's regenning health. The submission defenses, power and technical submission defense, reduce the damage received from those moves, but does not reduce them hitting or them landing, so to speak. I think that goes to pin escape, which affects the difficulty of the pinfall minigame. The higher this value is, the wider the range of the kickout gauge. Now, obviously, SWA is a AI league. We don't control the characters. So it will, the AI still gets the bonus, I believe. So having pin escape, obviously super good. Strength. This one is one of those ones I think maybe is a little bit of a misnomer, or a little bit of a not what people think it is. Where strength, I think people think it might be, wow, how hard can I punch, or how I can flex, or how much damage I can do. It affects how much weight a superstar can lift. So the more strength you have, the more likely you are to be able to, let's say if Sangres had full strength, or so to say, maybe he could pick up Warren Windham, right? Like maybe he could pick up one of the largest wrestlers in the organization. The more strength you have, the more likely you are to be able to pick up a superstar. Stamina and stamina recovery, once again, maybe like a little bit of a sleeper to my overall tips, to my stat tips. Stamina and stamina recovery are super useful and super important to the success of your wrestler. Stamina affects how quickly stamina decreases. So it will, if the higher it is, obviously it will decrease less when you use it. And then stamina recovery affects how quickly it is recovered. So maxed stamina and stamina recovery, you are likely to have a very long-winded wrestler. Pair that with some durability, you are likely to have a very difficult wrestler to submit or to damage or so have you. Someone who has longer legs than, say, another wrestler. Momentum affects the rate at which a superstar earns momentum. Momentum is kind of the universal ability using resource. Your wrestler generates momentum, and a lot of your finishers and a lot of your OMGs and all that stuff is based off of your momentum. So the more you have, the better. Here is the one that I think everyone doesn't really understand what it does. Agility. Agility affects the speed at which you climb the turnbuckle. Not anything to do with how fast you move, not anything to do with like dodging or anything like that. It is strictly how fast you can climb up to the top rope, and that's it. And I know there are some people who have put some points into agility, maybe thinking it's like a speed boost or something to do with like maybe like a dodge or who knows, but it is strictly for climbing the turnbuckle. Your movement speed. Here's where your agility stat should kind of put its points, maybe. It affects the walking and running speed of a superstar. Higher that is, the faster they move. Pretty straightforward. Strike speed affects the speed of a superstar's strikes. In my experience, I feel like these are quite good. Strike, movement speed, and grapple speed are pretty useful. Because the faster you are, obviously, the more likely you are to perform more hits, obviously, or maybe catch an opponent by surprise if they're turned around or what have you. Same thing with grapple speeds. Affects the speed of a superstar's grapple attempt. And I believe it has an effect on the mini game of like a grapple or something, like when they go in for the grapple and they kind of wrestle around for a little bit. I think the speed has something to do with that little animation. And then finally, there's three stats we don't use. I'll talk about them real briefly. There's chain wrestling speed, and mic performance. The chain wrestling stats it's effectively a mini game inside the wrestling game. I don't know like what the effects would really be beyond allowing the mini game to be easier in the chain wrestling section of the game when you are playing the game. But being that it's AI, I'm not sure that they are too good at it or that they're any good at it at all. So I think that's why we don't use those. And then obviously mic performance. We don't cut promos inside of the game. We cut promos on the forums. So this is an empty stat. You don't need to put any stats into it. So yeah, so that's kind of a quick breakdown, or maybe it's a long breakdown. I don't know. Anyone was lost, but quick breakdown of all of the attributes in 2K19 and what they actually do. Because I don't know, you can't look that up online, I'm pretty sure. You actually have to have the game. I'm looking at my PlayStation version of the game right now to get the information. Because it doesn't tell you that if you Google it. It'll just kind of maybe show you a list of like, oh, this is what you can update. Or I mean, obviously, if you go to the SWA templates, it tells you exactly what stats you can update, but it doesn't tell you what they do. So I wanted to kind of maybe level the playing field a little bit and see what people do from here on with their builds, because I think that'd be interesting now that everyone kind of knows this is what these attributes do. All right, with the attributes out of the way, let's talk about some of the paybacks. This is another kind of character creation step where you provide some of the special abilities that your character can do beyond its moveset, beyond the attributes that are affecting your moveset. These special moves can affect the outcome of a match in different varying ways. There's 2 levels of them, level 1s and level 2s. Each player or each created character gets 1 level 1 and 1 level 2, and as well as an OMG moment. I'm not going to talk about the OMG moments today because they're a lot more complex and they're a lot more varied in what they do. And honestly, there's already several websites that you can go out to and immediately look up the information on all of the OMG moments and what they do and how good they are or whatever, what have you. The tier lists or whatever of OMG moments, I'm sure they're out there. But for the paybacks, maybe a little bit harder to find the information on them, so I'm gonna talk about them again here. For your level 1s, there are 6 in the game, but we only use 5 in the SWA. The auto reverse payback level is not used, frankly, because we don't have a need for the auto reverse functionality. We're using the AI, and if the AI had it, they just hold it down forever. From experience, they just hold it down until it runs out, and then that's it. But the first one that we do have access to is the Possum Payback, which is play Possum and catch your opponent off guard with a pin or an attack. So your character is going to look all weak and feeble, and then all of a sudden, whoop, bam, you got him in a pin. If that pin holds, who's to say? But it's an underhanded, quick little turnaround feature that if you're getting your butt handed to you and it's a close match, maybe this will help affect the tide of the match, where if you're both 20-minute Iron Man match type situation, play a little Possum and bam, you can submit or pin a guy real quick. Next attribute or next payback level 1 is the Speed buff. This buff enhances your speed and agility. So remember, the agility is climbing the turnbuckles, not how fast you walk around. Additionally, it improves the rate at which you regenerate stamina and reversals. So those two are very useful. So if you're an aerial guy, you should definitely take a look at the speed buff payback, because you will get full advantage of all of the boosts that it provides. But most people would definitely take this just for the stamina and the reversals. They're just so useful. Next one is the Fists of Fury. It increases your striking power attributes, so your arm and leg power attributes, and it also gives you a minor speed boost and improves striking reversals. So this one's for your brawlers. If you've got a brawler character, definitely give this one a look. You will power up your moves, and then you will be able to reverse strikes and go a little bit quicker around the ring. So it can be very useful. Instant recovery is the next one. Use this ability to instantly recover after being knocked down. This also includes a minor speed boost. So this one I feel has its uses, but I'm not as keen on this one as, say, some of the other ones. If I was making a tier list, this one would be at the bottom, just on its frankly mediocre effects. And then finally, the reversal payback is earn a reversal stock, smash hit, super good. You get an extra reversal. It doesn't give you any other bonuses, obviously, but an extra reversal could be the tide, could be a match. You could win a match because of an extra reversal. So super useful. Definitely give that one a look. The level 2 paybacks are a little bit more in depth, and they're a little bit more interesting, so to say. And there's 10 of them in the game, and we use all 10 in the league. So the first one is the Finisher payback level 2, which is just straight up earn a finisher. If your player or your character hits this one, you just have a finisher on deck, and I believe you can stack up to 3 finishers in 2K19. So, like, if you already have one earned, you can hit this and have 2, so your character can really do a lot of damage in a really short period of time. And we've definitely seen it happen in matches where a character has busted out 2 or 3 finishers in very quick succession, and that's most likely why. The second one I want to talk about is the Resilience payback. This one's very, very good. It's escape a pin, a submission, or an elimination minigame with ease. So this one is like a get out of jail free card. If you're in the ankle lock, the DDT famous ankle lock, this one is the get out of jail free card. You will get out of it, no questions asked. Same thing with a pin, or let's say you're in the Rumble and you're about to go over the top rope. The resiliency attribute will save you from going over the top rope, I do believe. Yeah. Next one up is the Adrenaline buff. Now this one's actually pretty interesting. So this provides a modest boost to adrenaline, which allows you to lift more weight while also simultaneously increasing the amount of momentum earned for performing lifting grapples. So quite specialized in its use case. Big bodies or heavyweights or super heavyweights, the guys who like want to show off their like bench press suplexes and whatever, or like the pump handle drivers and all the moves where you'll get lifted way up into the air. The adrenaline buff is going to help you out. And you will gain more momentum for doing those moves. So if you've got a character that has a lot of like strength and is like really trying to show off how strong he is, this one is probably a good choice. If you're a cruiserweight, I don't know, maybe not as much. Things to think about. Next one, this is another really, really good one. The tank buff greatly increases your defensive abilities while simultaneously reducing your overall speed and mobility. This one's kind of a trade-off one. If you got a slow guy already, being any slower isn't really going to hurt. So adding to your defensive stats is always useful. And I believe DDT runs the tank buff. So he gets a defensive bonus when it's active. The next few are the risky ones, I'll say. The low blow, the poison mist, and the power of the punch. Each of these have a risk of disqualification. So in a proper match, if you are in a match where the ref sees you do this, you lose the match on the spot. And then, sometimes it can be worth it. Sometimes the match, the ref doesn't see it, and you get a lot of damage real quick with one of these. But if the ref does see it, you're in trouble, I gotta say. So going into detail, the low blow, perform a low blow from a standing or kneeling position. You hit him in the crotch. It's what it's telling you. Risk of disqualification. The poison mist, you spit poison mist into your opponent's eyes. Risk of disqualification. And then the power of the punch. You pull out brass knuckles and you club him across the face with a big old right-hander. Risk of disqualification. The last three are also rather interesting. We've seen one of them get pretty good use, but the other two, I don't know if we've ever had a situation where one of them has hit, or if we've even had someone running them. I'm not sure. But for number 8, the run-in, payback level 2, is summon an ally down to the ringside to help turn the tide. Now, if I remember correctly, it doesn't enter the ring when you do this. They just come down and they kind of sit ringside, and they are an impromptu manager, I do believe. I could be completely wrong on that, but in the times that I've seen it happen, I believe they just come down to the side of the ring and they just kind of act as a manager. That provides you a bonus. Another fun fact, managers in a match provide stat bonuses towards the people in the match. So it does provide a pretty consistent source of bonus stats or whatever. Next is Move Thief. We've definitely seen a couple people use this. The Move Thief is use your opponent's own moveset to finish them off. How humiliating. And it certainly is when we see it happen. But beyond that, it doesn't really do anything else. So it's just you just use your opponent's finishers and movesets against them, which is disrespectful, certainly. And then the last one is the Blackout. For a while, full disclosure, DDT had the Blackout payback level 2. It never went off. He had it for, I want to say 6 or 7 weeks. Seven or something matches he had it, and it never popped off. So I am not sure the use case on this one, because I have not had any success using it. I'm not sure anyone else has had any success using the Blackout. And frankly, it doesn't really do a whole lot besides look kind of cool. Its effect is the lights go out in the arena, and then you kind of appear behind them, and then you like do a stunner or some sort of sneaky backstabby type move. And that's really it. You just get in a little bit of advantage and a little bit of a light show to begin with it. So it's probably pretty low tier, but it could be cool if you're going for it. If you're a mysterious guy and you've got some mystical powers to rig the lights to turn off, definitely worth a shot. But fair warning, it never happened for me, and as far as I'm aware, it's not likely to happen. So who knows? Up to you. Next on our list of things to talk about regarding your character's build, or like maybe things you didn't know existed, is the personality sliders. Now, there was a little bit of a small chat in the Discord a little while back regarding this, and I dropped some knowledge there. But frankly, I'll just say it again for everyone else, in case you want to listen or want to hear this information as well. The personality sliders have a somewhat profound effect on the character's AI, as well as certain things that, say, happen in a match or that your character is likely to do in a match. And I believe there are 5 different sliders. So the first slider is the respectful or disrespectful slider, and that's pretty self-explanatory. A respectful guy, it's going to be the one who offers handshakes, and the disrespectful guy is going to be the guy who attacks them at the end of the match, or who attacks them before the start of the match. Similar to how, Tag Team Dirty Deeds does a lot of their stuff. I believe they're very disrespectful in their wrestling methods. So they have a lot of underhanded attacks and a lot of unprovoked post-match attacks as well. So as an example. The next one is the Preservant or Desperate slider. And I guess this one's a little bit self-explanatory, but maybe not. The more desperate you are, the more likely you are to use weapons when you're on the verge of losing the match, or using your low blow paybacks to get some big damage in when your character decides, hey, this is looking kind of rough. I need to turn something around here. They are more willing to DQ themselves in order to win a match or save themselves in a match. And obviously, if you're more preservant, you don't do that, but you also, I believe, get a little bit of a bonus to kicking out of pins if you're preservant, because you're like, I need to preserve my win. So I think that's the Preservant Desperate slider. The next one is Loyal and Treacherous. This mostly applies to tag team wrestling and also to anyone who the universe mode has decided is your ally. Loyal people are much less likely to betray their allies, and treacherous people obviously are more likely to turn on their partners and betray and trick people. The ultimate example happened way back in the middle of season 2, where DDT dropped ringside and said, screw it, I'm going home, and left Yamaguchi in the ring by himself. DDT, very treacherous wrestler, up and left. So he suckered and betrayed Yamaguchi, and then the rest is history, obviously. Next one, Bold and Cowardly slider. Bold people have no problem bringing the fight to you, even saving people from attacks. Cowards will run away, possibly even getting themselves counted out intentionally during matches. If you are a cowardly wrestler, you are more likely to just give up if you think you can't win, and you will tap to stuff, and you'll fall easier to stuff that maybe your character wouldn't necessarily pinfall to at that moment. And then finally, Disciplined versus Aggressive. Disciplined characters will prefer fighting in the ring and may also make them less likely to use weapons in no DQ matches. And aggressive people will attack their rival before and after the matches and will fight more viciously. Now, these aren't perfect. This is off of... they actually don't list what these do in the game. Like, if you go to the sliders, it doesn't tell you exactly what they do. This is from a website that focuses on 2K knowledge, and I'm inclined to agree with them, just kind of from experience. I've seen a lot of this happen, and obviously we've seen a lot of it happen in the SWA. A lot of the stuff checks out. But that's kind of like that's what the personality sliders do in the matches. And then I guess finally, I mentioned earlier the status effects. The SWA uses the universe mode, so the status effects affect your player before and after a match, and they can have varying effects to almost ludicrous degrees sometimes. And a lot of these include injuries, of which I'm very sure we don't use any, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure we don't use injuries, but a lot of them are injury related. But the main ones that do show up in our association matches and on the SWA broadcasts are the Conqueror rivalry badge, which is the competitor has beaten the biggest and best, increasing the offensive and defensive attributes by that character by 3, and that's ability can stack up to 5 times. So if you're on a little bit of a win streak and you've got a rival and you've beaten your rival a lot, you can really boost your stats with some of these attributes. Next one is the cohesion. This is mostly for tag teams. The competitor has proven unstoppable with their tag partner, increasing all attributes by 5 and doubling the rate that the loyalty personality trait increases. And that's something else that happens in those matches. At the end of the match, a screen will come up and it'll let you know on each individual wrestler what happened during the match, kind of, and what they're doing during the match. And on the side, it shows the personality sliders, and it shows during the match effects on the personality of the wrestler. So if you have some of these tokens, you can obviously affect your personality levels greatly. These next two are pretty negative. You don't want these on your character at any point, really. The cold streak tile is the competitor becomes demoralized just from losses, decreasing all attributes by 1, and it can stack up to 10 times. Obviously, that's really bad. You do not want to lose a lot in a row. And frankly, we've seen some of this happen in the SWA. Former wrestler, rest his soul, Yates, really went on a bruising cold streak to start his SWA career and never recovered. Frankly, I don't think they lodged a win, and if they did, it wasn't in singles action. They might have done a it might have been a tag match. It might have been Yates and Deuce Bennett versus Deadfire. I think they won that one. But beyond that, I don't think Yates won a lot. So definite recipient of a cold streak and definite obvious results of just losing more, which is brutal. Punish when you're down is what this one is. The next one is the distracted rivalry. So the competitor becomes distracted, causing all attributes to decrease by 5. I don't know if I've seen this one happen or I've seen at any of the points during our broadcasts at the end screens that anyone has had this one, but it's really bad if you do have it. And then the last two, these are arguably the best two. These are the ones you want to have. These are the ones that have, frankly, lifted some of the competition above some of the others during the last two seasons that we've had. The momentum tag is the competitor becomes energized from a burst of momentum, increasing the momentum and defensive attributes by 1. This can stack up to 10 times. Obviously, the more momentum you have, the more moves, the more cool stuff you can do, and obviously more defense helps. Defense doesn't hurt, and that can stack 10 times. So you can really, really get some extra stuff going with the momentum. And then finally, the hot streak. The competitor becomes encouraged after a big victory, increases all attributes by 1, and this can stack up to 10 times. So once again, just another absolute incredible, the God King of ring bonuses, in-ring bonuses, the hot streak. You want a hot streak is what you want. And if you're winning a lot, you can start stacking bonuses pretty effectively. And I know towards the peak of Tomoyo Yamaguchi's streak, I think he had like a 4 or 5 on his hot streak towards the end there. So quite a bit of extra pointage across the entirety of their character. So that's really all I wanted to cover today, just kind of going over the maybe lesser known aspects of the character creation and character effects that occur during an SWA match or an SWA update, so to say. And then maybe some people didn't know a lot of this stuff, and this will affect their build strategy going forward, or this will affect their if I don't know what the situation is on like recreates, or I know there's some retirement, or if there's a gimmick changes. I know there's some stuff in the rules for that, but I don't know what like a recreate situation is going to look like. But definitely for some of the wrestlers who are brand new, this is very useful information, and for old wrestlers too, if they've been struggling and they've been throwing all their points into agility, but they don't climb to the top rope very often, and it's 4 or 5 weeks of wasted points if you're really committed to it. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about. Going over the characters, talking about the show a little bit, going over how your overall is generated, and maybe a couple quick tips that you didn't know. And yeah, and I guess, and finally, if you haven't already seen, I've been working on a video for quite a while. The season 1 top 10 matches video should be out on Wednesday. I'll have that out for people to watch. And if you listen to the end, holy cow, like, geez, what are you doing? But I appreciate it if you have. Feel free, send me a like or comment or subscribe or all the YouTube stuff. I think I'm going to put these on YouTube. And let me know if it sucks. Let me know if it's good. Let me know things I can improve. And that's all I really have. That's all I got to talk about today. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to me ramble for an hour about fake internet wrestling. And yeah, this is Crazy Ralph, and this is Crazy About the SWA podcast, and I'll see you next week, everyone.